Hi everyone, this is Yuki. In this video, I'll be going over some basic tactics for the game Commands Colors Napoleonics. Today we'll be focusing on how to attack infantry. This is going to be a relatively short video where I go over some really basic tactics that can be used in this game. And you guys can let me know if you want more of this kind of videos. If so, I'll make these into a series. One of the biggest differences between this game and the other games in the Commands Colors family is that range attack in this game is very strong, and that units get weaker as they lose the number of blocks. And this basically makes attacking pretty difficult if you're approaching it in the same way that you do in other games. So here, let's just jump into an example. And in the screen, we're showing 3 French line infantry units attacking a hill occupied by British line infantry units. And we'll just demonstrate what a head-on charge attack would do. It's something you will probably do in other games, and we'll see how that turns out. So in this demonstration, we're assuming that both sides can actually order these units consecutively back and forth, which is definitely not something that's guaranteed to happen in a real game, but just for the sake of this exercise, we'll just assume that every unit on every side is going to be ordered in every turn. Alright, so let's get started. So on the French side, we will move up, and we will attack the units on the hill. So naturally, when you move in this game, the range attack is a little weaker. And so we'll start off from the side. So normally I would roll 2 dice, and because the enemy's on the hill, it's only 1. And okay, we actually got a hit. So we'll take off 1 block from the enemy. And then the next unit will keep attacking. I mean, it doesn't really matter which one, but I guess on the side it's probably a little more advantageous, so that you can force a supported unit into retreating. And we miss. Lastly, this 3rd unit will attack. And we miss again. So now we pass the turn to the other player, and we'll just order all the units to attack. So we will order these units, and we'll do the range attack. So the defenders in this case will be firing from a standing position, so they do not move, and they basically get a really strong range attack with 5 dice. And okay, so for the first attack, we're getting 4 flags, so 1, 2, and then we'll take the other 2 as hits. Now, onto the next one. We attack again. 5 dice. And then we're moving 3 blocks. The last one, just do it again. 4 dice. And then we're losing 1. So as you can see, continuing to attack is probably not an option anymore. It's not going to be successful. I mean, we can play this out, but you can pretty much guess how it's gonna go. So we're not gonna waste your time with that. So some of you may be saying, oh, well, if I get into like a board state like this, why don't I just wait until I get a bayonet charge, and then I can just charge up the hill? I mean, you can certainly do that, but the problem is there are only 2 copies of bayonet charge in the 70 card deck, at least from, depending on which deck you're using, but just let's pretend that we're using the base deck from the base game. That's like a very small chance of you actually getting that. And usually the setup doesn't give you the chance to just wait around. I know in this example we don't have anything other than infantry, but usually you have artillery firing down at your infantry, so there is some kind of time pressure. I mean, you're free to wait for that card, but I feel like by the time you actually get to use it, it's not going to be as effective as you think it might be. Okay, so in this new example, I will show you how to attack with the support from a cavalry. So, as you see here, that one of the light infantry from the last example has been replaced with a cavalry unit. Let me show you how this basic tactic usually works. So we'll move up our units and focus on one of the terminals of the enemy line. For two reasons. The first reason is because we want to attack a unsupported enemy unit, and also we want to move away from the range of the unit on the furthest right. So we'll attack with the cavalry and try to form a square. It's a 4-die attack, so the enemy will most likely form a square. And this is the hit against our cavalry, and our cavalry doesn't get to attack back because of the hill protection. Now we'll take some shots with our infantries. So we missed the first one, and then we hit on the second one. Okay, so now we'll pass the turn. Enemy will order all these units, and so the one on the furthest right will most likely stay where it is. Moving down the hill will decrease its attack, so it's probably not worth it to come down just to do a suboptimal attack against our unit, especially when doing so would have it lose the turret protection. So the most reasonable move is for the middle line infantry to attack at our line infantry with 4 dice. Okay, so it's a hit and a flag, unfortunately, so we'll have to move back 1 hex. And the only thing this square can do is to try to attack the cavalry again. And doesn't hit. Okay, so now the British turn ends, and that's back to our turn. Okay, so this time we'll try to move up and have the heavy cavalry attempt to force another square in another enemy infantry unit. So here's what we're gonna do. So now we're in the range of melee, where we can use our infantry to melee attack against the enemy square, which is a very advantageous move. And we get 3 hits. And the enemy doesn't hit. And now we'll have the cavalry attack the middle line infantry with 4 dice. Because it's a 4-die attack, the enemy will still most likely form a square here. The square will attack. It misses, and the cavalry doesn't get to attack back. Okay, and this ends our turn. So now there is very little that the enemy can do on its turn now that 2 of its units are already in square. And they cannot unsquare because they're adjacent to cavalry units. So the only useful thing that the enemy can do is to fire our cavalry with 5 dice and hope for the best. And it gets 1 hit. Now the squares will try to drive away the cavalry unit. Another hit. And I guess the last square will try to do the same. And another hit. Okay, and this ends the turn. So now back to us. We will move the cavalry to the unsquared infantry. And then we will continue to move our infantries here. So we will attack the middle. line infantry with our own infantry. So we get 3 hits and a flag, which also counts as the hit, because the unit is in a square and they cannot receive support. Now we'll do a ranged attack against the enemy infantry on the right, which is a 1-die attack, and we missed. So in this case, the cavalry will actually not attack, because the enemy will most likely not form a square, just because our attack die is very low now. But it's still useful to just park the heavy cavalry right here, because this still turns off the enemy ranged attack, which is a very, very useful feature of the cavalry. So this is like a really good example of that. So we'll just end the turn here, and we'll show you what happens on the enemy turn. So in this turn, because our heavy cavalry is right next to the enemy line infantry, it cannot perform the 5-die ranged attack. If it wants to attack, it can either attack the heavy cavalry or it has to move and attack something else with melee. So in this case, I think the better move is actually for it to attack our line infantry here. So in the order phase, because the 1-block line infantry is no longer near a cavalry, it can unsquare. So we'll do the movement. And that'll be a 4-die attack against our line infantry. Gets 1 hit. We'll battle back with 3 dice. That's 1 hit. And I mean, it doesn't really matter what this one block infantry does. I mean, it can attack here, or just, actually, you know what? Let's just try something else. Yeah, so try to get around the battling back. It can actually just try to do a 1-die attack, take a pot shot. Okay, so it's like it gets a flag, and it forces us to retreat. So the British turn ends. It's back to our turn again. And this turn we'll basically just bulb everything up and try to attack to the best of our abilities. So 3 dice, 1 hit, and 1 retreat. We'll actually take the hill. And then the other line infantry will do a ranged attack with 2 dice against this other enemy, and we eliminate it. So yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't think we really need to play this out. As you can see that we still have 2-3 block line infantry, even though the cavalry really took a hit. But we pretty much took the hill and eliminated all the enemy forces. I mean, if we play this out, I mean, obviously the remaining 1 unit is gonna lose. But yeah, I think we can end here with this example. And to summarize what we talked about so far, with the tactic of attacking infantry with cavalry support. So it has several advantages over attacking infantry with just infantry alone. So first, it can form squares. And as you have seen, forcing enemy into squares reduces the efficiency of the enemy units, because you're reducing their attack to just 1 die and they cannot move. And they also take flags as hits. And the other advantage of that is that it takes away the command cards. This actually is not shown very well in our hypothetical example, because as you have seen, we're basically assuming that every command card is in order the units in the example, and we don't really take the hand into the consideration. But if you try this in a real game and you're forcing enemy to make squares, you will see the effect of the enemies having fewer command options. It's going to be very obvious. That, yeah, so this example didn't really illustrate that, but in a real game you will be able to see that. And the other important point is to use cavalries to disable enemy range combat. And So this basically involves the cavalry's just driving up to the enemy units, sitting next to them. Whether you force them into a square or not, just sitting next to them will disable their range combat unless they remove all the adjacent enemy units. And when they do, you can retire reform, which make their melee attack really inefficient. And the other point that I want to make is that you should take advantage of the dice face distribution. By this, I mean that the cavalry actually only has one symbol on the die, and the infantries have two. So this basically translates into your cavalry being inherently more durable. I know some of the players, when they see this, they are kind of reluctant to move the cavalry this close to the enemy units, but because of the way the dice face are being distributed, there's only one effective hit, especially when you're retiring and reforming. So the cavalries are actually a lot more durable versus infantry than you might initially think. So yeah, so try this out in the game and you will see that in the long run, the cavalry can actually afford to take a lot of hits. Even in range combat is still only half as likely to be hit compared to an infantry unit because there's only one effective symbol. So yeah, you can use it to shield your infantries and some other tactics. We can probably go over those. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. So thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And feel free to join my Discord server for Commands and Colors, where you can let me know what you want to see in the future. So yeah, let me know if you guys like this video and would like this to be a series, or you would like me to do other videos about the other games in the Commands and Colors family. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you so much, and see you later.